We left the city to follow our dreams as sheep farmers on a Norwegian abandoned farm. If we had known back then what awaited us, we would not have made the same choice again. It all started in 2015 with a young newly married couple and a dream of leaving behind the stressful fast-track living of the city for a life in calming, tranquil environments close to nature and animals. Our farm adventure started in 2015. We found a small farm 1 hour north of Bergen in Norway. The price was reasonable as the farm had not been farmed in more than 60 years. Let's just say it was a fixer-upper. But with its 33 acres of land, we saw an opportunity and made an offer. In the end, we had the highest bid. It was ours, or so we thought. There are laws in Norway that keep the big companies from being able to buy up farmland, so we needed to send in an application to be approved as farm owners. We were planning on raising sheep on the land, so that's what we put down in the application and sent it in to the agricultural office at the local government. 1 month later, I hadn't heard anything, so I contacted the guy in charge. He told me that he had read the application and that our plans for the farm was perfect. Raising sheep on the land and going for an old Norwegian native breed as we have put down was a good, solid and realistic plan. Good job. I was so glad to hear that and a little relieved. So you're going to approve it then? I asked. No, not yet. I was dumbfounded. But you have already read it and you thought it was great. Can't you just approve it? He told us then that he didn't have the time to do it now. He was working on another big case. But you have already read it. He was firm. I needed to wait my turn. Now we were in a squeeze. The seller was not getting the money as our bank would not release it until we got the deed for the property. And we could not get the deed until the application was approved. We were in a strange limbo state. We had the highest offer and we had signed the contract, but the sale could not be finalized. Although the previous owners were really cool about it and told us that we could just move in if we wanted, it just didn't feel right, and so we waited and waited and then we waited some more. It was a stressful time as the contract stated that we were responsible for reselling the farm if we cannot get the approval. I had no idea how that would work, as we could not get the deed until we were approved, so my mind was coming up with all kinds of scenarios. In the end, it took half a year. The last week I was so fed up that I called the guy every single day until he got so sick of me that he just approved the application. Finally, we owned the farm. Now, just for the records, we have dealt with many departments at the local government here, and our general impression is that they are faster and more flexible than many other places around, and that this case has just been an isolated occurrence. After doing a lot of work on the house and putting up some fences, we were finally ready to get our first sheep. That was no easy task, as the law in Norway for raising farm animals are strict. We needed to register a company, and then the company needed to be tied to a farm, and that meant that we needed to go back to the local agriculture office. I sent them a mail and the guy called me the same day, a different guy than last time. He told me that it was taken care of and sent me the production identification number that I needed. I was shocked. That must have been a 200,000% increase in efficiency. And then we needed an approval from the Norwegian Food Authority. After reading up on countless of laws and filling up many forms, we had the approvals. We could buy sheep. We bought 4 sheep of a native breed called Norwegian Shorthair. And this is a really old breed that dates back to the Vikings. And it could live outside during the cold Norwegian winters. And that was good, as our barn looks like this. It did not take long until they found ways to escape our brand new fences. Every time we had patched a weakness, they would find another one. We also got other animals on our farm, like a farm cat, chickens, and we even had 2 pigs at the time. But these were not meant as production animals that we were going to send to the slaughter and get money from, so we didn't need to go through all the strict rules for them. Our first child, a boy, was born about that time, and let's just say that we were not prepared for how much work raising a child is. It basically meant that one of us were occupied at all hours, and so all the farm work was left to the other. And this was in addition to our regular jobs, as we were not making any money off the farm yet. As grass do not grow during the winter, we needed to get a supply of winter feed for them. We were planning on buying hay the first year, but unfortunately we were really unlucky that year as a national drought led to a massive hay shortage in the market. So it was really difficult to obtain. We ended up feeding the sheep on super expensive small hay packages meant for rabbits. That could not go on, so the next year we found a flat piece of land that we could use to make hay. During the summer we cut the field twice. The first harvest was during the early and hottest summer days, where the grass could dry on the ground. The second harvest was near the end of the summer, where we needed to use an ancient Norwegian drying technique called hashing. That is when the grass is hanged on wires that are stretched between wooden poles to create a drying rack. Having all that hay gave us a really good feeling. We were farming now. After 2 years with the sheep, we decided it was time to get a ram. We were going to raise lambs. We were so excited. We had read many books and talked to many farmers, so when one of the sheep disappeared, we knew what was going on. We found them up in the forest. One little black lamb and his mother. That year we also got our first bottle lamb. One of the mothers gave birth to twins and only wanted to keep one. We took the little lamb inside and warmed it up. It was almost like a dog. It ran after us. And it was so cute. During all of this chaos, our second child, a cute little baby girl, was born. Let's just say that the tranquil little farm life that we had envisioned felt miles away. We kept saying to ourselves that when we get some income on the farm and can scale down our jobs, that's when the calm life will begin. With more sheep we needed to fence off a bigger area, but we had a problem. Fence poles and nettings are heavy, and we had already fenced in the area that were accessible by wheelbarrow. At that time we had no tractor, so that meant that we needed to carry everything by hand. Some of the netting rolls weighed close to 80 kilos or about 160 pounds. So the solution became to use electro-netting. That was easy to put up and low weight, but it also came with a lot of problem. The netting only works as long as it is properly energized. Weed and branches drain the fence from electricity, so it needs to be checked quite often. If the level became so low that the sheep no longer fear the fence, it actually became dangerous for them. As the fence is so soft, it acts like a fishing net that tangles them in when they try to eat the grass on the other side. If they are not discovered in time, they can actually die. I don't know how many times I had helped a sheep out of the net, but let's just say it's a lot. Ironic enough, the electric fences just added to a problem instead of being a solution, as maintaining it took so much work that it stole the time that we should have used to set up proper fences. The flock grew as we got more lambs. During the fall, the ram lambs needed to be butchered before the mating season, or we would get inbreeding. We felt that there was no need for the animal transport to come and pick them up, because we only had 2, so we decided to take them ourselves. They tasted delicious, and we felt on the top of the world. Soon, we would start to get some income on the farm. The Norwegian government has a program to help small farmers like us keep grazing animals outside. And the reason for that is that they want to keep some of the unique landscape that has been around since the Viking ages. That's why if your flock is above a certain size, you can apply for a cash support, and it's actually quite good. You can get paid a rate for every sheep that are grazing outside. You also get cash from the government whenever you send an animal to the butcher, in addition to what they pay you for the meat. It all adds up to a handsome amount. There is, however, a lower threshold to when you can apply, and that is to keep hobby farmers from exploiting the system. We were pushing the lower threshold to apply for the support. Soon we would get paid just to have our sheep grazing our field. But then, disaster struck. While our numbers of sheep were increasing, the area we used to make hay was not. That meant less food for each individual per year. We had also not paid attention to the lowering soil quality, as we hadn't put back any fertilizer. Each time we cut hay, we took away the nutrition in the soil without putting anything back. And so each year we had less and less hay. In addition to this, we still hadn't managed to open up a bigger area for the sheep to graze. The first years, the animal had found loads to eat in the rough and untouched vegetation. Our breed of sheep is similar to goats that literally eats everything. They had transformed the landscape, but also depleted it. The hungry animals were attacking the fences, and we had a lot of work that winter with collecting them both in the forest and on our neighbors' fields. Their thick wool hid how skinny they were getting, so when we discovered it, we were too late. We bought the most calorie-rich sheep feed we could find, but lambing was a disaster. Only 3 of the sheep had lamb, and they had only 1 each. They were so small that 2 of the mothers rejected their lambs immediately. We took them in and fed them from bottles, and that saved their lives. When the last lamb was born, he was really small, but the mother took good care of him. We checked him and confirmed that he had been drinking milk, so we decided to leave them alone. That was the wrong call. That night was particularly cold, and so he froze to death. The sight of the small, lifeless body on the ground in the morning really shook us. This rate was not sustainable. We needed to do some changes. We would either need to increase the area we made hay on and put up more fences to give the flock a bigger field to graze, or we would need to decrease the number of animals drastically. Our current rate was not sustainable. We were so close to earning money on the farm, but could we actually do all the work in time? We were parents for 2 small children. In addition to that, our daughter has a special genetic mutation called DDX-Rex syndrome that gives mental and physical disabilities. We both had jobs that we could not scale down until we were actually earning some money on the farm. And in addition to that, we still had a lot of work to do before we had dragged the house out of the 70s. Now, could we actually do all of this at once? We felt like we were in a catch-22. To earn money on the farm, we needed time. We didn't have time because of the jobs we needed to earn money that the farm could not provide. Time to be realistic. We needed to reduce the flock to a sustainable number. As I was preparing to call the animal transport to come and pick up half our flock, the second blow struck. I got a phone call from the office that were managing business registrations. She told me that I haven't registered any activity on my company since I registered it, so she would need to delete it. But I have a flock of sheep that I'm going to send to the butcher, I told her. I would lose the approval if I didn't have a company. Can't you just give me a little more time? Rules are rules, she told me, and deleted the company. We ended up having to butcher all the animals ourselves. And that of course also meant that we couldn't sell any of it. That year, fall was unusually warm, and so normally we would wait for colder weather. But we needed to take some of the rams before they went into heat, as that sets a bad smell and taste on the meat. So even though conditions were bad, we did our best. Since the place we normally hang the meat to cure was too warm, we lost a lot of it to mold. That was the third blow. We were feeling like total failures. We had gone all in and worked so hard, but in the end, we crashed and burned. The task we had taken on was bigger than both us and the farm had been ready for, and so the house of cards that we had built came crumbling down around us. Our flock now counted 3 female sheep. That was a number that we knew our current setup could sustain and support with more than enough food and grazing area. There would be no new lambs born on our farm in the near future. That also meant that we were miles away from the lower threshold to get any kind of support for them, and thus earning money on the farm. It took some time for us to process our failure, but the more time that passed, the better we felt. Scaling down had been the right thing to do. Another feeling also came creeping in: relief. The overwhelming pressure of doing more work than we were able to were finally gone. Now we had all the time in the world. On the rest of the farms, small systems were created and slowly improved to make tasks easier. We made a vegetable garden and we slowly added to it. We built 2 greenhouses that allowed us to grow a bigger variety of vegetables. We converted one of the buildings to a part chicken coop, part hayloft, and implemented many tricks that we had learned from the small garden version chicken coop we had. We made a hay crib for the sheep and a tray for pellets to keep the precious food from wasting on the ground. We also moved it so we could load it from the outside instead of going into the fields to the sheep and being attacked by hungry animals with horns. We even bought 2 new piglets of a hardy breed that could handle the climate better than extremely fast-growing production pigs we had earlier. From the outside, our home may look like a farm, but in reality, the animals are more pets than anything else. We are not earning any money on them. So where do that leave us and the farming dream we had? We may not earn any money of them, but we are greatly paid in tranquil experience that few others get. We love our animals and caring for them gives us purpose. Now what more could you ask for? Someday we will fence in the rest of our property and once again increase the flock, but for now we need to take one step at a time. There are so many things we need to sort out before we are ready to take on those tasks. We also need to prioritize the kids and the animals we do have before we have another go at making any kind of profit on the farm. One major task we have to put higher on the list is our 100-year-old house that needs much love and attention. So where do that leave us? Are we living the dream? Not in the way we anticipated, but in a way we are. We wanted a calm and stress-free life, but we certainly didn't get that. What are you doing in the garden? Ironically, we experienced far less stress when we decided to slow down the pace on the farm and enjoy what we have, instead of chasing what we don't have. In this video, we mostly focused on the sheep and the actual business part of the journey, but that is far from the whole story. If you want to see the rest of our story, take a look at this video next. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be seeing you on the next video. Bye for now.